Welcome back to the Cold War Ray episode
Yes.
300.
I concur.
Can you believe
Yeah.
we've done 299 episodes
Right.
of this show?
Right.
And for those of you that have listened to all of them,
What's wrong with... No, go ahead.
what the fuck is wrong with you? Yeah, that's where I was going.
Sorry, people. Sorry to all 7 of you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's endurance.
Well done. How many episodes of the Cold War show have you, the World War II show have you done?
588.
Right.
But that's been years before we started this. So no, we get props. We are dedicated to the craft, to the cause. I'm still telling the story.
Sure, that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, it's not the richest.
Talking.
It's not the richest bitches, because anyway, don't get me started. Don't get me started. It's Christmas time.
It's not the riches, bitches. Oh, there's a quote.
Because that
Got to use that one.
ship hasn't. All right, Hitler. Sail.
Yeah.
I've made very little money off Hitler. I'm very disappointed. I thought, you pick something risque, but anyway.
Yeah.
So we did the Cold War.
So, for those of you just joining us who haven't listened to all the 300 episodes, we're talking about the Cuban revolutions.
See.
Because there were many. We're talking about so far the last one.
Good point.
Who knows what the future holds?
Yeah, we might do one.
I guess after your country, your President Trump has finished invading Venezuela, Cuba might be next. We'll see.
Might as well. I hear it's lovely. So
might as well while you're down there. As I've often said to you in Vegas, while you're down there, come and invade my Cuba.
That's a quote.
So,
that's an actual quote. Go ahead. Sorry.
Here we are, where we left off last time, I think. Castro's in the mountains with his little guerrilla army.
Yeah, Band of Brothers.
New York Times sent Herbert Matthews over to interview him. Batista's government said that's a fake interview. It's all fake news. He's not really alive. Notice how there was no photograph.
Look at the shadow.
Matthew posts the photograph.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, you can do anything with AI these days. It's all fake.
Exactly. This was early.
But the big question.
Yeah.
The big question, if you're Castro or one of his guys, is how the fuck do you actually overthrow a dictator? It's got to be about more than just shooting at soldiers in the jungle, right? How do you go from a handful of, young lads
right
in the jungle shooting at a few soldiers to overthrowing an entire army? That's a big step. You might think that might be a little bit overwhelming for your average person, but Fidel Castro is not your average person.
No.
As we know. But more than that, you and I have done we've done enough episodes of different things over many, many decades to know that building an army, building a military force requires a lot of stuff.
Yes.
You need weapons, you need logistics,
food,
you need
medicine,
water. You need urban support,
inhalers,
you need inhalers, logistics.
Right. You need it all.
And you need journalists to tell your story.
Absolutely.
To build the support of the people. Basically, you need to set up an entire parallel government structure in order to get your thing up and running. And this is where shit gets interesting. Because we're going to see how Castro did all of this. But also the split between, you've got the guerrillas in the fatigues.
Right.
Up in the mountains, in the jungles, hiding from the army, living on dog food, living wet, living hard.
Mm-hmm.
Versus you've got the folks down in the cities, the towns, that are part of the movement.
Oh, yeah.
That are trying to provide support, and they're trying to get you weapons, ammunition, medicine, food. You've got an army searching for you, both in the city and the mountains.
Right, absolutely.
Because they know you've got supporters in the city.
Yeah.
So you've got army, you've got police searching for both of you. Meanwhile, you're trying to maintain communications and logistics lines. And also, your agendas are a little bit different. And not only does Castro have to figure out how to get his urban people working in synchronicity with his mountain people, he's not the only game in town. There are still, always have been, and will continue to be, lots of different revolutionary groups that aren't like, Fidel, why should we listen to you, Fidel? Fuck you. You're just
one of many.
Loudmouth with a beard.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't even have the beard at this stage. Just a loudmouth with a mustache.
And you talk for hours. You fucking talk for hours. Oh, my God. Yeah, because he's got a lot to say.
Yeah. And, you know, we have to, the reason we've told all the backstory is so people understand that Fidel, A, was just one of a number of mouthy Cubans, and two, had two pretty well-known disasters already at this stage.
Yeah.
The Moncada Barracks disaster, and then the Grandma Landing disaster. If you're a rival rebel leader,
right,
you would say, well, why should we follow you? Who the fuck are you? Why should we roll ourselves in with you? You haven't had a lot of success.
I think you're going to die any day. I'm not going down with you. So you keep doing what you're doing and I'll do what I'm doing.
So he's joined in the mountains by some of the leaders of the urban resistance, and they sketch out their broader political strategy.
Yeah. Can I just say,
they're going to try and figure out,
I was just thinking about what you said a second ago, but there's two things. Why should someone choose Castro and not one of the other organizations? Well, there's two things, I think, and how well known these are, whatever. But one is that, and we've discussed this already, Castro has tried himself or has seen others try pretty much everything. The only thing that's going to bring down this bully of a government is force. They're not going to go, oh, you made a really good sales pitch, okay, I'll leave. No, it's going to be force. Nothing else is going to work. A general strike, as long as he can get, as long as Batista can sell sugar, pay his troops, they're not going anywhere. And as far back and before Caesar, as long as you've got the army on your side, you're going to be okay. The point is people are going to have to take you out. You're not just going to go anywhere. Two, and you've discussed this a billion times, I don't know about those other groups, but Castro's, I don't want to say ego, belief in himself, belief in his cause, whatever you want to call it, is monumental. It's bigger than the mountain that he's hiding in. So he's got those two things going for them. He's already figured out this is going to come down to fisticuffs. The point is when. And everything that you were saying a couple of minutes ago, the logistics are important. He needs to build the support. How do you take down a monster of a government when you've only got 100 guys or whatever in the mountains? You slowly do what you got to do to get the people to turn away from the government and support you, either at the very least in their hearts, if not with their pocketbooks or sending you food or whatever. So you've got to turn the people away from the government. And it's kind of easy to do because Batista is being such a dick. Everybody is got some gripe with him. So half of Castro's job has been done. And the last thing I'll say is, as I'm looking up these people, because I've never heard these names before, as I'm looking up these people who are in the mountains with him, more times than not, it said, oh, this person was a school teacher, this person was a whatever. But as soon as Baptista had his coup, they were like, fuck this, fuck a normal life. I am going to fight this in any way I can. Here's Castro. And now, like Che, they've got an avenue for their desire to fight back against oppression.
Yeah, Castro wishes he had 100 people. I think at this stage he's probably got 20 to 30 guys, tops.
Right. But we always say 100. Always say 100. No, go ahead. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. It's like big leaps in technology are always 5 years away. When are we going to have robots? 5 years.
Well, it's like
when are we going to have AGI? 5 years.
How many listeners do we have? About 100. About 100. Yeah. It's not. Sorry. Go ahead.
So he's trying to combine the troops in the mountains with the resistance force in the urban centers into a simultaneous, multi-pronged strategy.
Yeah.
And I know you're an expert on this kind of thing because you've been simultaneously pronged multiple times. I've seen the videos.
Right. Well, as long as you
very disturbing.
As long as you pay, you get to see the video.
By the way,
yeah.
Speaking of videos, I was watching one of your many World War II TikToks, and I saw a barn. You have a barn?
Oh, the shed. A barn shed. It's literally a pre-made prefab thing, and a guy in a giant truck on a trailer put his truck in reverse, got up to 20 miles an hour backwards, and just right, because it's all hill. I live on a hill, you could probably tell, but we call it here a shed. But yes, it's for storing shit stuff. Sorry.
I thought sex palace. Immediately what I thought. It's Ray's version of the island of Capri.
Go ahead. It's a country sex palace. Go ahead.
So they wanted to build what they call a civic resistance movement on a national scale, made up of workers, middle-class professionals, and the middle class largely have stayed out of this whole thing now. And, that's sort of the petite bourgeoisie position. Like, when you're having one of these revolutions, we've seen this time and time again in history. So you've usually got the elite, the rich, the wealthy, the super powerful that are running things. Mm-hmm. Down the bottom, you've got the working classes, who are getting fucked over on a daily basis. They're poor, they're hungry, they have no political power, they are not getting much access to economic return on their labor. They want a revolution. In the middle, you've got the middle class. Yeah. You got the middle class are doing okay. Yeah. They got a house. They got a car. Yeah. They got food on the table. Mistress. The kids go to a school.
It's not
got a couple of mistresses. Yeah.
Right.
They're not rich.
Right.
But they're doing okay. And they're like, listen,
it's not that.
Would we like more?
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's not that bad.
As long as I keep my mouth shut, I go to work, maybe I own a store or I'm a dentist or whatever. As long as I do what I'm supposed to do and keep my head down, I'm making a pretty good living. No one's chasing me. I can tolerate the status quo, but that's the middle class.
And if you're a member of the elite,
right,
and this is true in all places and all times, including today, the basic trick is to give enough people, just enough,
right,
to keep them relatively unlikely to throw a revolution.
Right.
You want to keep as much of the shit as possible for yourself, right, but you just give them a little bit. You give
taste.
Them just enough, just a taste, right, so they feel like they don't want to give that up. It's not worth giving that up on the chance of getting more.
It could get worse for them. Yeah.
But for Castro, he needs these people. He needs enough of these people to be willing to risk losing it in order to have more. Now, of course, what you also find is that after a revolution, particularly a socialist revolution, right, a lot of those middle class aren't going to be happy with the way things pan out, particularly when, if you have a socialist government, they go, you know what? You don't need $500,000 a year. You could live just as well on $50,000, $60,000 a year. There are people starving. Yeah. We're going to take some of your shit. We're going to give it to them. And you're like, hold on a second. I didn't sign up for this.
Or as Trump said, you don't need $30. Your child can be fine with $2 or $3. Well, who in the fuck are you to tell me? Anyway, no, but you're right. I mean, the people hear what they want to hear. And then when the revolution comes.
Yeah, Mr. Gold Toilet.
Thank you. They have to sacrifice like everybody else for the greater good. And it rubs the human experience the wrong way because we're used to, more is better.
And of course, some of those people or their parents or their grandparents in this case end up after the revolution going to Miami.
Right.
And then bitching about Castro's regime
for years
ever since.
Yeah.
But first of all, let's talk about a little bit more about Castro's incredible media game.
Okay.
Because I think this guy understood propaganda probably better than anyone since Napoleon.
Okay.
He really, I think Julius Caesar understood propaganda when he was writing his commentaries
to
get back home.
Right.
I think Napoleon really understood propaganda very well in his era.
Mm-hmm.
Winston Churchill understood propaganda. how to give the speeches on the radio.
Because I need the money. Yes. Yeah.
And Castro really understood how to use the media very, very well. We talked about Herbert Matthews, New York Times. And, I remember we briefly told the story about how when Matthews was there, Fidel had his brother Raul, I think, coming in and reporting that they'd seen, they'd made contact with their column that had 100 guys here and 100 guys there. And they kept marching groups of guys in and out of the forest where they were. Section 47 reporting in. Oh, thank you very much. Section 105 reporting. Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Same guys, just
switch shirts,
rotating.
Yeah. Who
around.
knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, that's the oldest trick in the book.
Those articles.
Sorry, that's the oldest military trick in the book. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you want to make your numbers look bigger than they are. Sometimes you want to make them look smaller than they are. It's all about
exactly.
It goes back to art of war, right? You make the enemy think what you want them to think. But these articles by Matthews really blew up. They went viral, as the kids say, both in Cuba and in the United States. Yeah. It made Castro look cool. And it's interesting. You go back and read, as I have done, the media coverage of Castro in American media in the late 50s, both from the New York Times and Time Magazine. Time Magazine wrote like 100 articles about him in the time. They made him look cool. Yeah. American media loved Fidel Castro in the 56, 57, 58 period. The Americans loved Castro until he took power and then started taking away American-owned assets.
Right, yeah.
And as we'll see, and I remember we talked about this when we did his obit episodes years ago. Do you realize it's nearly 10 years since he died and we did those obit episodes?
Oh my God.
I think it was 2016 he died.
Jesus.
Next year it'll be 10 years since we did those. But he offered to buy all of the American assets.
Yeah. Give us time.
On terms.
Make payments.
He needed terms.
Yeah.
Because they had no money.
Just have it.
And the Americans said, no, fuck you. Right. So then he said, well, we need it.
Yeah.
You won't sell it to us. So
we're at an impasse.
6-7, as the kids say, 6-7. We'll just take it. What else are we going to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway. And then they turned on him. Then the Americans turned on him. But being famous doesn't necessarily make it easier to build or run an army in the mountains. Sure, positive stories about you is going to be a form of marketing. It's going to bring some people in. But they're still on the run from Batista's army. They're still living on scraps of food, treating bullets like they're made out of gold.
Yes.
He's still just one of a number of revolutionaries in Cuba that are trying to overthrow the regime in different ways. He's in the limelight, but it doesn't necessarily make things that easier on a day-to-day basis.
I guess, you can have young women, and I really wish this would happen to us, young Cuban women mailing their underwear to you. But you're right. He's still in the mountains. He's still struggling for every morsel. He's still struggling for every bullet. He could die at any time because you've mentioned this. The planes are flying over. They're looking for him. They haven't stopped. And actually there are times when artillery from naval vessels are firing. So again, they're still trying to take him out. Nothing's changed. And if anything, his popularity has put a bigger target on his back. So it's nice, but it's not really, it's not working out. It could be a lot more, but you're right. He needs the middle class because they're the ones who've got the means to support him literally with food, with money, whatever. Popularity is nice, but it doesn't pay the bills.
So about a month after Herbert Matthews came to visit, another journalist called Andrew St. George shows up. Part of the job of the urban team is to get these journalists up into the mountains.
Right.
Now, Andrew St. George is an interesting guy. He was born in Hungary, claimed to be related to the Hungarian royal family.
Sure.
During the Second World War, he worked for Army intelligence.
Right.
and worked as part of the resistance to Nazi Germany. After the war, he worked as a freelance journalist and photographer, and then in 1958 he went to Cuba to meet Fidel. Castro asked St. George if he could arrange a meeting with the CIA.
Right.
So that, that gives you an indication of, where Castro's head was at the time. He's looking to get help from the CIA.
He's thinking big. Yeah, yeah. Because America will determine the winner. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So St. George tried to set that up, but it got vetoed by Washington, apparently. No, we're not doing that.
Touching.
So
yeah.
St. George actually wrote an article on Castro's desire to have an open dialogue with American authorities, and it appeared on the front page of the New York Times on the 11th of December 1958. Unfortunately, the newspaper was on strike that day, and so the public never got to see that article.
Oh my God. Well, it might be good. Can I just read a small section of that? Because first of all, St. George starts out very well. He goes, Dr. Castro, your death has been officially reported many times, but you look hardy. For 14 months, you've waged a jungle mountain war against the Cuban army and against some 30,000 men with all its modern weapons. What have you accomplished? And Castro goes on about, well, I've got my army. Yeah, it looks small, but we're kind of keeping it small because we want to be mobile. We want to be able to hit and run. Just because it's small don't read too much into that. And he starts talking about some other things. But then, so St. George lets him talk for a little bit. And then St. George goes, so you say you want to burn Cuba's entire sugar crop. Maybe this is a good thing that this article wasn't read. And Castro is completely honest. He goes, our intent is to burn the harvest to the last stalk, including my own family's large sugarcane farm here. It is a hard step. Trust me, it's very hard, but it's a legitimate act of war because sugar taxes allows Baptista to buy bombs and arms. He is able to raise a bigger army, and they come taking us. And like I said earlier, it's those very weapons that allows him to remain in power. So as long as people buy Cuban sugar, Baptista is going to have money to buy weapons. And so and like you said, Castro was thinking big. He's thinking three-dimensional. I want to talk to the CIA. I want to get the young people on my side. But if I can also take away Baptista's means of raising money, I'll fucking do that too. He is in it to win it. And even though his country is going to suffer for a while, maybe that's what it takes sometimes to get rid of this cancer that is Baptista.
Yeah, and we've seen this, I guess, with other revolutions. We've talked about there needs to be some sacrifice. Even in the earlier Cuban revolutions, farms were burned, the economy suffered, people suffered.
Yeah.
That's just part and parcel of a civil war, right? You need to attack the economy. You need to get people to do strikes. You need to burn farms. You need to shut down stuff.
Absolutely.
St. George, by the way, as we'll see later on in the series, he ends up flipping and after the revolution, starts writing anti-Castro articles, and admitted later in life that he was paid a ton of money by Henry Luce, the right-wing owner of Time magazine,
right,
to write a lot of negative articles about Castro.
Right.
And Che Guevara ended up convinced that he was working for the CIA to sort of turn public tide against them. And
yeah,
so he spent months with them up there, but it didn't turn out well for him and his relationship with them long term. He asked Castro if he was pro-communist. Castro said that's ridiculous. Yeah. But then in spring of 1957, CBS sent Robert Tabor and cameraman Wendell Hoffman to do a documentary. And this is where it gets a bit surreal. They filmed soldiers trekking up mountains, drinking water from tree branches, resting in hammocks. They show Celia Sánchez and Haiti Santa Maria, two women hiking alongside the men, letting Americans see that women are part of the revolution too. But here's the kicker. They interviewed 3 young Americans who had joined Castro's guerrillas. These kids are 15, 17, and 20 years old.
Jesus.
Sons of U.S. citizens stationed at the Guantanamo Naval Base.
Right.
And on camera, for an American audience, one of them explains they joined the revolution to do our part for the freedom of the world, really, is what he said.
Well, I mean, American kids are brainwashed. America, and we're great. If your freedom is the greatest thing in the world, why would these kids not being fed that want to fight for freedom? So again, I mean, it's a product of our own environment.
Yeah, but just the fact that there were American kids fighting for Cuba, fighting for Castro against Batista, who was supported by the Americans. Interesting. Wonder whatever happened to those guys.
I'm sure they wrote books. Does this make, just a real quick question, having those three Americans, do you get the sense that this this PBS, whatever it was, piece was sympathetic to Castro, or was it more just laying down the facts? Because I mean, I'm starting to think that the Americans watching this going, oh, what if those young American boys are doing this? Then maybe Castro's on the right side of history or something. You know, it sounds like it's sympathetic towards the rebels.
I wasn't able to track down a copy of it, but I imagine that a lot of this stuff is relatively neutral at this stage.
Right.
But anything that's portraying Castro in a neutral light is essentially a positive for Castro.
It's as good as it gets. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Castro sat down with Tabor and spoke in English directly to the camera.
Right.
He said, "This is only the beginning. The last battle will be fought in the capital, you can be sure." Then they all sang the Cuban national anthem. And that aired across the United States in May of 1957. As I said earlier, Time magazine ran, it was 31 articles about Castro in 57 and 58. They call him a swashbuckling young lawyer, a well-to-do daredevil of 29, the strapping bearded leader of the Never Say Die band of anti-Batista rebels.
That makes me want to join.
Yeah, right.
That's pretty stirring stuff. Yeah.
Well, you got the beard.
So I'm halfway.
So, you're halfway there. Yeah.
Exactly. But I got to keep it trimmed. I can't do the big bush. Anyway, we'll talk about that later.
Even President Eisenhower's own brother referred to Castro as a symbol of a noble revolution.
Wow. Okay. The president's brother. I mean, yeah, because it does, if you just go by Castro's words, and you kind of forget the communist things that's still sticking to him, it sounds good. I mean, it sounds like something that the average American will go, yeah, that sounds great. That sounds awesome. Who knows?
Even, a year or so later, I recall a certain John F. Kennedy, I think when he was running for the White House,
right,
said that he was supporting the Cuban Revolution, that Batista was an evil dictator, and the people of Cuba had it rough, and he was supportive of it. Didn't last long once he got into the White House, of course.
He had different people whispering into his ears. But you're right, the original point that you made at the beginning of this is that if some Americans eventually start saying nice things about Castro, then obviously his effect with his propaganda is having some success.
U.S. college students are trying to join him on their summer vacations. What are you doing this summer? Oh, I'm going to go fight a revolution in Cuba.
And if I don't die...
It's a bit like the Americans that have been going to Ukraine for the last couple of years to help the winner of Ukraine's Dancing with the Stars, of Zelensky, with his campaign. You ever seen those videos? Seen the video of him on Dancing with the Stars?
No, I've heard of it, but I've never taken the time.
Well, I've seen some clips.
Yeah,
he can dance.
He can dance. Hey, now he's dancing for his life. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there's another journalist who ends up visiting Castro, and Castro suspects this guy's a spy. The guy's not just asking questions, he was trying to get information out of them that seemed a little bit strange.
Right.
Castro thought he was not a real journalist. He was just playing the role of a journalist. But what could they do? They couldn't just execute him on suspicion in case he was a real journalist.
Oops.
But as soon as the guy leaves, Castro moved camp, and sure enough, a day or so later, an aircraft appeared, circled several times, and dropped bombs near the hut where they'd been with the journalist.
Yeah.
So his paranoia was justified.
Or instincts. I've noticed that positions of leadership really seem to laser focus some people's senses, if you will. I don't want to take it too far, but I'm sure he's probably my spider sense is tingling. Let's get the fuck out of here. And he was right.
Yeah. Particularly if you want to survive. If you do, I mean, I think it's one of those cases that if you do have those good instincts, you probably have a better chance of surviving than if you don't.
Yeah.
One journalist who actually did have the stamina to stick around was a Spaniard working for Paris Match called Enrique Meneses.
Yeah.
He spent nearly 4 months with Castro, the only foreign journalist who could really handle it, because it was a tough fucking life.
Yeah.
Marching through the jungles. He later wrote that he didn't take his boots off at night because his feet were so swollen. It was too painful to take them off and put them back on the next day, so he just left them on.
Damn.
But he did report that they were mainly surviving on just foods that they could find in the jungle. Malanga roots, which is like a sweet potato,
right,
like a tuber. And yucca, which I think they were eating the flowers, maybe the leaves of the yucca plant.
Yeah.
Occasionally they'd get a pig or a chicken or a snake.
Oh, good day.
That they could add to it to get a bit of protein.
Right. Those were really exciting times.
They were basically living on coffee and cigars.
Hey.
Which
we do.
Honestly. Yeah, sounds all right. Yeah, I used to. God. And my son's living in America now. I keep saying to Taylor, send me a box of cigars or bring one with you when you come home. No, not going to do it.
Selfish.
Because they think cigars are bad. Yeah, fuck
That's
them.
why I
what's the point of
want it.
What's the point of having children?
Yeah.
And they won't even bring you cigars when they come back.
I can't think of a single one. Yeah, that's messed up.
Castro would be up at dawn, black coffee with a cigar, listening to the radio news while his men packed up the camp. Then he would shoulder his rifle, march off at the head of a column, setting a pretty exhausting pace. They would march non-stop from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Wow.
Stopping only if they came across a peasant hut or were offered coffee somewhere. That's the reality of guerrilla warfare. You know, it's not romantic. It was brutal.
Yeah.
And I think we've touched on this, but I think, when we get more into Che Guevara's story, the thing there's a lot of things that amaze me about Che Guevara, but one of them is he is very, very sick with severe asthma throughout this entire campaign and just kept going. They'd have to carry him on a stretcher from time to time. Obviously, access to asthma inhalers is not that great when you're hiding from an army in a jungle.
Right.
And he just kept going, kept pushing on, even though Fidel offered to leave him behind at different times. He was no, fuck you, you don't leave me behind, I leave you behind. And then, of course, as we mentioned, when the revolution's over, he then goes to Congo to try and help them fight a revolution. Next. And then after that, he goes to Bolivia to try and help them fight a revolution.
Next.
In every case, putting himself in a situation where he's going to be sick, he's not going to have access to asthma inhalers, but he doesn't let that stop him. It's just...
Yeah, there's something bigger than his physical limitations. So we've talked about this. So I didn't know anything about Che, except for the image that's burned into pop culture. So we've talked about his intensity. We've talked about the fact that he's a doctor. We've talked about that he sincerely cares, and what converted him was seeing just the mass poverty. But, and this will come as no surprise to you, he also had a pretty good sense of humor. I mean, he was just this all-around kind of guy. When that guy showed up, Enrique Meneses showed up, obviously his accommodations, if I can use that word, were quite humble. But above the little, or next to where he was sleeping, Che made up a sign that said International Press Club. Like, yeah, you're the only one here, so we're just going to treat you like you're the press of the world. So again, just these little things that he would do that would, I think, sincerely touch people, because he really was a believer. He was drinking the Kool-Aid, and but at the same time, that doesn't mean you can't stop and have a laugh. And it doesn't hurt to impress or whatever, the foreigner who's writing articles about you. But I just thought that was a nice touch. This guy would come up and see this, knowing that Che put it there. That's kind of a cool moment between rebel and reporter.
Wonder if he took that home with him and put it up in his office. Yeah, Che Guevara made this for me.
No big deal. Yeah. Yeah.
But here's something important. As they were marching, whenever they came across a peasant hut who offered them coffee or food, they would pay for everything.
Yes.
Meneses noted that Celia Sánchez would thrust 100 peso notes into peasants' hands before leaving. A lot of the peasants would try and turn it down. No, we want to help. Yeah. And the rebels were like, no, you take the money.
Yeah.
And this is deliberate. Batista's army is just seizing whatever they want from the peasants. Castro is saying, no, we will pay you for anything that we take. He's treating them with respect. He's treating them with generosity. He's showing that he's different to Batista. He's a good guy who cares about the peasants.
Right, winning the hearts and minds of the people. And Celia Sánchez, she grew up, her dad was a doctor. She had a pretty good life. She was considered intelligent. She worked very hard. But again, when Baptista does his coup, she's like, nope. It's time for even people like me to do something. And let me just ask this before we go on. I don't want to jump ahead, but there's also another traitor in the midst, the army guide. I just wanted to touch on that because it shows a very different side of Che. And I didn't want to bring it in yet, but I know it's coming up soon. But I just talked to a second ago about Che's sense of humor. Che had a serious side, and you did not want to get on the wrong side of that because he doesn't have time to play. I wasn't sure if you had read about Utimio Guerra, the army guide, who was betraying.
Yeah.
Okay, so we whatever. We can bring that up whenever.
Yeah. I think that's later on.
I apologize. Okay.
So after Matthews, the New York Times guy's first visit, he came back later on, and this time he came back with Frank País. Now, we need to talk about País and Celia Sánchez, incredibly important members of the 26th July movement in these early days, and Celia for many years afterwards. Like, we tend to think of Castro and we think of Che Guevara, but there were a lot of people who dedicated their lives to the revolution. And if Castro has anything, I think he has a lot of luck.
Right.
He has a lot of skill, he has a lot of confidence, a lot of bravado, but also a lot of luck in the people that he had around him that played an incredibly important role. It wasn't a one-man show or a two-man show. There was a lot of people who
absolutely
played, like, we talk about there would be no Augustus without
Agrippa.
Fuck knuckles.
Agrippa,
yeah, thank you.
We both blinked.
One of those guys. Yeah, Agrippa.
Right.
Napoleon he had his Marshal Ney, and he had his core guys that played really important roles at various stages. Yeah. Julius Caesar had
he had lieutenants and staff. Are you thinking of someone in particular?
Lepidus. Mark Antony. And he had various guys at different times that played important roles. Yeah. You need to have good lieutenants around you. I think it's one of the things that can determine success or failure.
Yeah.
Now, of course, being a good leader means finding those people.
Absolutely.
Teaching them, training them, delegating well to them, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But it cuts both ways.
Yeah.
So Frank País and Celia Sánchez are really important. Celia is 29 at this stage, roughly the same age as Fidel.
Right.
Daughter of a local doctor, slim, dark-haired, good-looking in a severe kind of way,
Sure.
Intelligent, practical, tireless, efficient, and she and Fidel took to each other immediately. And she became one of his most valuable collaborators, running an extremely active support group in her hometown of Manzanillo. We mentioned it briefly last time. She ends up controlling access to Fidel. She understands his moods, ensures that his needs are met.
Right.
Whether it's he needs a dentist or he needs an intellectual debate, she is giving him what he needs to be at his best.
Absolutely.
It's not really known if they were lovers or not. Historians tend to suggest they possibly were. There's no evidence for or against it.
Right.
But they were very, very close. And she played a crucial role in his life up until her death from cancer in 1980.
Yeah.
Frank País, born in 1930 in Santiago, so he's about the same age, late 20s. Born into a Baptist family, wanted to be a school teacher, but Batista's coup turned him into a revolutionary.
Yeah.
And he becomes the chief of action and sabotage for the movement in the Oriente province. He met Castro in Mexico in 1956 and was the guy who planned the uprising in Santiago that was supposed to coincide with the Granma landing, but the Granma was late, so the timing didn't work out.
Right.
But he's really the guy who's running the urban resistance movement for Castro.
Yeah.
He's incredibly important in getting ammunition and food and medicine up to the mountains, and also incredibly important in creating distractions for the army when Castro needs to pull the heat away from him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, can I just say real quick? There's a saying that I heard: if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you have a team. You go, you have others with you, and that's exactly what Fidel and other successful leaders have done. They have a team. Everybody's got their responsibilities. They're dedicated. They look out for the leader, like you were saying. But at the same time, Castro can't do everything. He can't decide everything. He can't be everywhere. And so he has this solid support team who truly do believe in this. They're not just there for the glory or whatever. For them, it's just as real. So again, when you have that kind of team, makes a huge difference. And so Castro can think about larger issues like, hey, I want to contact the CIA, or hey, I need to think about propaganda. He's doing his part. They're doing their part.
Yeah. So País is incredibly important. He's sending reinforcements along with money and food and weapons. But when he's meeting with Castro, there is this tension starting to build between the troops in the mountains and the troops in the city. Castro says he needs more men, more supplies being sent to the army in the mountains. That has to take priority over everything. But of course, there are troops in the urban centers as well that are getting into fights with the army. They want weapons.
Yes. So
there's this tension between the two camps. Who's going to get what? And how do we make them all work together? And it's part of the diplomacy that Castro needs to figure out how to do. How do you get all the different parts of the rebel alliance working together? And then, as we'll see, he also has to work with the other rebel movements outside of his own.
Yeah.
But they're all trying to figure out how to combine their forces and efforts to bring down and topple the government. And so there's going to have to be a series of strikes. There's going to have to be a series of military actions. But remember, it was a general strike that toppled the last dictator, Machado, in 1933.
Yeah.
So Castro and País have decided that strikes are going to be a very important element in their weapon, in their arsenal to bring him down. And this is where the contradictions start to show up. As the months go by, Castro's rebels in the Sierra are becoming more and more politically radical.
Right.
Che is, as we've mentioned in the past, out of all of them, he's the real hardcore communist.
Yes.
He's the guy that is, he's educated, He's literate. He has read a lot of Marxist literature. He's also very eloquent, very persuasive. So he's also very hostile to imperialism and the United States government.
Yeah.
And it's important to understand that at this juncture, most of Castro's rebel force, including Castro himself, aren't really anti-American. In fact, they're kind of pro-American. They still think of America as helping defeat the Spanish.
Yeah.
They still think of the Americans as having helped build their economy. You know, they don't really, I think, understand as much as we do today about the level of influence that the US was having on supporting Batista. They probably give the Americans a benefit of the doubt. They still see America as the good guys that are trying to help out. They don't really have the perspective of them as raping and pillaging the economy. That will come later on as they become more educated about colonialism and communism from Che. But
the other thing is that, again, if you're Castro, and it's better to have America either neutral or on your side than opposing you. So he's got to factor. How can you not factor that in? The big brother.
So by mid-1957, Castro divides the rebel army into three sections, commanded by three commanders: himself, his brother, Raul Castro, and Che Guevara.
Right.
And Raul and Che are the most radical, overt Marxists.
Right.
And they're indoctrinating their men with Marxist ideas. Fidel is more cautious, uncommitted. He's conscious of the need for more mainstream political support. You know, again, getting back to the middle class, if you start sounding like a hardcore Marxist, the middle class are probably going to be more reluctant to get on board.
Their sphincters are going to.
Also,
keep
in mind that the Cubans, because of their Spanish heritage, are very religious. And
that's a good point.
By the late 1950s, it's well understood that Marxism was anti-religion. You know, Marx and Engels, through to Lenin, believed that, and Stalin believed that religion was one of the tools that the elite used to control the populace. It is the opium of the masses, and that they needed to stop religion from being able to play that level of control of the minds and hearts of the populace. So socialist governments around the world were clamping down on religion, except when they needed it. Stalin, played like Napoleon did.
Hey, whatever it takes.
He obviously wasn't a Marxist, but Napoleon understood as well the role that religion played, because he's a student of history. That's why he arrested the Pope at one stage, but he would also use it where required.
Absolutely.
I think Napoleon once said that religion was a useful tool for controlling the masses.
Yeah.
And, but getting back to Castro, so if the religious, particularly middle class, believe that Castro's a communist, and when he comes in, they're going to do massive reforms that's going to strip away the small amounts of wealth that the petite bourgeoisie have, and they're also going to prevent religion.
Right.
It's going to make it more difficult for him to get support. So he needs to be careful about how he is portraying himself and the rebel movement.
Exactly. Every up-and-comer has got to try to cast as wide a net as possible, and you say things that you need to say, and then you also don't say everything that you're thinking. Right, Che? Sit there and shut up. Yeah, so he's playing the game, the balancing act. So he knows what he's doing, but again,
we know Che's not good at that.
No,
we know even when Che was when they got arrested after Moncada.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Fuck you, I'm a
No,
communist.
not after Moncada. In
Mexico,
when
yeah.
they got arrested in Mexico.
Goddamn right, I'm
Mexico.
a communist. I'm a God-fearing communist.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Let me tell you everything that Stalin's doing wrong. Che did not give a shit. Like, as you know, we will see time and time again. Che Guevara didn't care about his own life. All he cared about was speaking his truth and never resting for a moment until he had freed the poor people of the world from oppression.
Damn.
He was completely singular-minded, devoted to the cause.
You should clone him.
So anyway, just to wrap up this episode, so you've got this weird situation where the mountain guerrillas are moving further and further to the left, becoming more and more Marxist.
Right.
While the city organizers are still thinking they can work with the Americans. They're trying to bring in the middle class. They're trying to bring in the shopkeepers and the lawyers and the bankers and whatever for support. And the Cuban Communist Party, the PSP, the Partido Socialista Popular, are still not on board with the armed insurrection.
Right.
They want a popular front. They want strikes. They want demonstrations. They want elections.
Yes.
They're not down with the whole guerrilla warfare thing.
Right.
And we know that they've had a sort of weird relationship with different governments. Even Batista, they were very, very friendly. I think they had people in his cabinet at one stage, going back to one of his earlier... his earlier
two communists
governments.
in the cabinet. Yeah.
So the communists aren't really sure what they want, and the people don't really trust them and respect them. There's a whole anti-Semitic thing because a lot of the communists traditionally going back are Jews.
Yeah.
And they've had stages where they've been in bed with the dictators.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important to understand too, because people tend to associate communism with violent revolutions, military revolutions and dictatorships and whatever, because that's what we've been taught in the West. But we've talked about this before on the show, but just in case people don't remember or they haven't listened, there's nothing inherent in Marxism that requires a violent overthrow or revolution.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if you go back to Russia in the early 20th century, the Bolsheviks, the ones that were arguing for an armed revolution, were the minority party.
Yeah.
They were the outliers of Marxists and socialists in Russia and around the world. The Mensheviks, who were the majority party for most of that period, were arguing for slow progress, elections, popular movements, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
That was the majority of what socialism and Marxism believed and was fighting for and working towards up until the Bolsheviks under Lenin and Trotsky initially said, you know what, this is too slow. Fuck this. Let's get some guns. We're never going to get anywhere trying to do it in a polite fashion. Please, sir, may we overthrow your government?
Right.
We just need to get this shit done and get the wheels turning.
Exactly. And if I could give an example of why Castro is not on board with that, when we were talking about the St. George interview, one of the last things he said was, and this just pretty much sums up Castro, he goes, to any North American, it would be absurd, outrageous if any army officer or police chief deposed or disposed of a governor of a state and then declared himself the governor. Who would recognize him as such? Yet this happens all too frequently in Latin America. And he's making a point. It's like, it doesn't matter, kumbaya, strikes, passive stuff. Someone's going to get enough guys together with a gun and they're going to take over. We have to fight force with force because history has shown nothing else is working long term. So those are nice thoughts and we'll incorporate it, but that can't be the only thing.
So just to wrap it up, that's where it is the complicated political reality that Castro is dealing with. How do you build an army?
Yeah.
How do you bring together the mountain guerrillas that are becoming more and more Marxist with the city resistance, urban resistance movements that more sort of pro-American, pro-middle class? how does he get all of these other groups like the Communist Party, etc., the student unions together on the same page?
Yeah.
How do you bring in all of the opposition groups, and keeping in mind that there's all this history between them all, even his own old party, the Ortodoxos or the Auténticos, can't remember which one he was part of. Now, all of these other parties, there's old grudges, there's ideological differences. Everyone's got their own ideas about how to get rid of Batista.
Yeah.
He needs to build this big tent, kind of like Trump did in his last campaign in particular. Just bring together everyone with any sort of gripe and say, you're one of us now.
Yeah.
Yes, we can get it done.
Whatever you want.
Don't worry about
Yeah.
it. Just vote for me.
I'll take care of it.
And we'll give you what you want in the end. Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about the details. We'll work out the details next time. Speaking of next time, we're going to see more violence in the streets. We're going to see Frank Pais's final masterstroke, and Castro's rivals are going to have some very bad days, which will be good for Castro, but bad for them. Next time.